morning, or good afternoon, or perhaps good evening. Welcome back to the SAP's podcast. This is episode 2 of our watch of the HBO series The Leftovers, and we're doing season 1, episode 2, Penguin 1, Us 0. My name's Sam, and I'm joined by my two effervescent co-hosts, Phil.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you, and Ant.
How's it going, Sam? Phil, happy to be here.
Coming in with the energy straight away. So before we get into the episode, a reminder of our spoiler policy. So we will only be spoiling the episode that we're doing this week and the previous episodes. There will be no future spoilers as Ant and Phil are on their first watches through this series. So
I'll try not to spoil the whole podcast, don't worry.
Just by being here, Ant runs that risk. So without further ado, let's get into Penguin 1, Us 0. So this episode we open with two unnamed police officers, I think, just discussing Holy Wayne, as we saw from the first episode, and it's kind of revealed that he has lost his kid in the departure, so maybe that's a bit of a reason why his life has gone in a slightly strange direction, I think it's fair to say. So apparently he claims to have holy powers, but they say that he, quote, charges his batteries with teenage Asian girls. Yeah, yikes. So we see that it's a fairly sophisticated operation. I think the people that work for Holy Wayne are described as being semi-pro, but it's not a full-on professional operation. And what did you think of this opening scene?
I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, to be honest with you, because, you know, it kind of comes out of the blue. They're doing the operation. It seems a bit relaxed. It's like, yeah, let's just do it. So, you know, like, I enjoyed the energy at the start, and it's like, yeah, let's just go for it. Phil?
Yeah, it's similar. I was quite struck by how apathetic both agents seem to be in general. Like, when the first agent starts talking about his son quitting football, I really got the impression, like, he very apathetic towards his own son, and then quite a laissez-faire approach to kind of, oh well, they're semi-professionals, let's order the hit. It was quite, do you know what I mean, very slow pace considering what they were talking about doing.
Yeah, seemed quite, like I said, they were quite relaxed about potentially ordering the death of quite a number of people. But then so we cut to the actual police raid on the ranch, and I must say I was a bit surprised, even on rewatch, just the shoot on sight policy that they seem to be taking. And I know that they know that the people there are armed, but still it seemed a little bit over the top. And then so we see Christine from the first episode. She gets chased down by a police officer who's then basically saying he's going to fucking shoot her, which again is just, yeah, a little bit much, because Holy Wayne isn't exactly the number one on the most dangerous list. But Tom comes and saves her effectively, shoots the police in the back, and then they run away to a sort of underground hiding spot. Phil?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good change in pace from, as we mentioned, the previous scene where they're very apathetic, very slow, to suddenly the red light, go, go, go. I wasn't quite sure why. So why, I get when they first kick in the door, they shoot one or two of the, I'm going to call them cult members, I'm not sure if that's the right term, because I think they might have a gun, or they start firing and start throwing people on the floor. I couldn't work out why it looked like he was going to shoot just Christine. Like, that seemed, she's clearly not a threat. I didn't quite get that, why they were going to kill her, or why they were threatening to kill her.
What do you think about that?
I think they were treating it a bit like a search and destroy map on Call of Duty. They would just go in here and if they see someone, they shoot. It felt a little bit like that, didn't they? It's, what you expect from the police is, they give you the option to surrender, to put your arms above your head, lie on the floor and all that. And they were reaching for their guns because they thought that the people doing the raid were a bit coming in a bit too hot. So they were just shooting them down, really. And obviously the police were all fired up for it. I did like the fast start to the episode, though. Within a few minutes you hear the police seemed a bit amoral. So, yeah, it was certainly interesting.
Yeah, it's a very different change of pace, because we got a bit of an action scene in the first episode with when the Guilty Remnant turn up at the Heroes' Day parade, but even that was framed more as dramatic than action, because they kind of played it all in slow-mo. So like I say, it was It was an interesting start to the episode, definitely. So then we cut to Kevin, who it turns out he's having a dream sequence about Jill's friend Amy, but you're not quite sure at the start, but things quickly get weird when Amy says that, quote, he wants you to see. So then they're walking through some snowy woods to the dog killer, as we'll call him, from the first episode, who's aiming at who I presume is Laurie, but it's not quite clear. And then he says to Kevin to basically look at his feet, what's going on, and his feet are on fire. And then he wakes up and his fence is actually on fire because his neighbour is trying to burn his brother's clothes, who's presumably departed. And then he steps on some false teeth. Very, very strange. And what did you make about this?
Well, straight up, there's too many dream sequences in shows and movies, so it's been done. Don't really like them. Just going to put that out there. I enjoyed the symbolism, even though I wasn't quite sure what it was. The connection of the fire in the dream and the fire in reality. I'm not sure what the link was, but it was interesting. Same with the teeth. Not really sure what they are for. Also found it quite funny how he's dreaming about, his daughter's friend, as I'm sure a lot of dads kind of secretly do. So yeah, I didn't mind it, but yeah, dream sequences. You're always watching something and it goes crazy, and then they wake up and you think, I've just wasted 2 minutes. Like, what's the point?
Phil, what did you think?
I don't mind the dream sequence. I get where you're coming from, and I don't mind them too much as long as it's quite obvious that it's a dream sequence and that it's not. Kind of, and then he wakes up and none of it was real. That bit always gets me. I don't mind when it's quite obviously a dream sequence, like when he's stepping in fire and doesn't realise. So the only thing I was really thinking about with this scene was it's the first time I started wondering about what if someone wasn't departed and they'd just been murdered? Because it would be so easy to play off as, oh, he was departed. I didn't actually murder him, because it's his brother, isn't it, that he's talking about in this scene?
He's the one have to murder them at
Yeah, but
you have to murder them at the same time as the departure happens. As soon as that happens, you've kind of got a free pass for a couple of days to do what you want, haven't you?
Yeah,
he was taken.
Obviously he was taken. And the reason I'm not sure that this would be the case for this person, but the way I was thinking about it was the fact, so when he steps on the teeth, and what I was thinking about was, well, the departed, like with the baby Sam in the very first scene, when he vanishes, he doesn't leave anything behind. Mm-hmm. All his clothes are there, so I assume anything that he had on him would have gone with him. So I was wondering about why would his teeth be still left behind? If he departed, why would his teeth still be there? And it might be a complete... I'm not sure it's quite the case with this person, but it's the first time I started wondering about, could I have murdered someone and got away with it? Because no one's going to be looking for them.
That would be a high-risk strategy, trying to cover up the murder with the departure. But maybe.
And this set me off down a road. I'll come back. You will see later on when we talk about the scene. But this set me off thinking about something else. Oh, also, okay. Was Amy staying over as well? That's one thing I meant to ask. I couldn't tell if she was wearing pajamas or just what.
Yeah. I think that she spends quite a lot of time over at Jill's. I can't remember the exact
inclusion on the dream. Oh.
But,
good night, Amy.
But no, I think she does stay over as a fairly regular occurrence. Okay. So then we're still with Kevin, but he's now having a therapy session, which has been, I think, mandated to him after he was shooting dogs in the last episode, which I think is probably the minimum you can expect if you go around shooting dogs. And the therapist instantly reminded of you two idiots from the first episode, just getting Laurie's name wrong.
Can I say, yeah, like he my man, the psychologist, he's getting paid by the hour, and we do this podcast for free, so forgive us if we're getting the name wrong slightly.
Kevin is still clearly insistent that, no, we are married, even though effectively, legally yes, but effectively they're not. But he's clearly not letting go. We get a few more kind of choppy edits that we got in the pilot here as well. And then it's revealed that the police squad car arrived on the dog shooting scene, but found nobody there but Kevin and all the dead dogs. So the dog killer, as I said that we'll call him, just wasn't there at all. Kevin is insistent that he left before everyone got there, but the therapist says that basically says what everyone else, all the viewers are thinking. and kind of making the inference that, like, but yeah, nobody else saw anybody there but you, Kevin. Phil, did this kind of set off any thoughts in your mind?
It did, because I was starting to think about how no one else mentioned, like, he doesn't mention the stag, for example. It's not like, oh, we found the body of the stag and the dead dogs. So I'd wondered if the stag was also part of his, just to kind of set it up that actually he's still imagining the man and the stag.
That's a really good point. I'd never put that together, that they never mentioned about the stag as well.
Yeah,
Phil coming up with the goods.
It happens rarely, but occasionally.
No, that's really, that's really
you've
good.
Watched this 3 times now, Sam. Come on.
No, exactly. I know. I'm not pulling my weight at all, definitely. But no, well, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout now as we go through the episodes more for more things with the stags, and if they're all in Kevin's mind. So then we're with Meg, who is at the guilty remnant kind of holding house. There's a message on the TV of, quote, "The old world is gone," which, is kind of showing the guilty remnant's mindset a little bit more. Like I say, she's in a sort of holding house, and it's for people that aren't fully in the guilty remnant, but want to be. They almost have to go through a test, it seems, because Laurie takes Meg out to start chopping down a tree. Fair enough. Ant, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with cults, quite often you've got weird trials and induction methods, and I just kind of went with it. I thought she probably needs a bit of practice swinging that axe. It looked like she's going to blow her back out doing that.
What do you reckon, Phil?
No, I absolutely agree. Her axe swinging technique was terrible. Clearly didn't listen to the induction given by Patty in the last episode.
I'm glad you guys are focusing on the big things.
The big questions always. All I thought was, is it some kind of attempt to either kind of like, not stress relief maybe, but kind of a way to try and get rid of anxiety or worry, trying to help them let go. I wasn't 100% certain why they were cutting down the tree, if I'm honest.
I suppose it could be, you're cutting down a part of your old life, or, if the departure was a natural occurrence, and then it's kind of like getting back at the natural order, the natural world, perhaps.
Yeah, I think this is skipping ahead a little bit, but it's a good place to talk about it. I think when we actually see Meg then trying to cut down the tree, and she can't do it, and she's basically getting sick of it and sick of how things are going with the GR, she says to Laurie that, like, what is this meant to symbolise, like me chopping down my old life or something, cutting down my old life, and you're thinking, oh, okay, because she said that, that's probably not going to be the actual reason. But then I think later on, when we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that actually, because it plays nicely into the later scene. We cut to a few guilty remnant members who are painting windows of a building white, as you do. And one of them gets doused with red paint in a kind of drive-by. Kind of shows how the guilty remnant members are treated consistently, deservedly so. I
just hope that as part of your health and safety induction, you get several changes of clothes and several different versions of the uniform, because that's going to be an absolute bitch to get out.
Yeah,
well,
you're going to need some of Ross Geller's Ubervice on that.
That's it, because we don't see any of any members wearing previously stained clothes, so you'd hope to think that that they've got plenty of supplies. So then Jill and Amy run into Matt the priest briefly, who's still giving out flyers about how the 2% are not who you think they were, as he was doing in the previous episode. So Jill and Amy are then in a coffee shop, and Jill sees a gun in Nora Durst's bag. Nora Durst being the lady from the first episode who lost her whole family in the departure. So Jill, of course, immediately tells Amy, and they begin to speculate. Nora then pushes over her coffee cup, and the waiter immediately seems a little bit angry, but then once he sees who she is, he's like, oh, no, it's absolutely fine, and starts treating her like a celebrity. Phil, what did you make about that?
So, at this point, I thought it was kind of her way to try and feel normal again, as I think you've kind of inferred. Now this goes back to what I was saying about. This then started me thinking about. Did her family actually depart? Because when we see that she has the gun in her handbag, I mean, you don't just carry. Oh, it's America, admittedly, but I don't think you tend to just carry a handgun around and not in your hometown. Without
a pretty big fucking handgun as well.
Yeah, a pretty hefty
chunky
handgun.
One.
Yeah. But I what I did wonder was, did her family actually depart? And this is going back to the same with the bloke when they were burning his brother's clothes and items. This then started me thinking about this. Did her family depart, or did she murder them and she's now covering it up?
So suspicious, Phil.
Phil just thinks the worst in people.
I have to admit, yeah, I am somewhat.
And did you have a slightly more optimistic take, or?
To be honest, I thought that she was just looking for conflict. I thought with the gun there, she's in there on her own. She pushes it over the side. When it happened, I kind of thought that, does she want someone to freak out at her, or does she want the restaurant to have a go and then she'd use the gun or threaten them or something? The reason to which I don't know, but that's why I thought she did it at the time.
Yeah, well, I think Jill and Amy are actually fairly kind of spot on, because in their first speculations, I think Amy says that, like, is she going to go and hold a place up and rob it so then she can feel something again? And I think that and what you guys have said is fairly close to the mark, where she pushes the coffee cup over because, yes, she wants someone to have a go at her so people will stop treating her with such pity all the time. Because you see, as soon as he realises who she is and he's like, oh, no, it's absolutely fine, she almost looks a little bit, like, disappointed almost. Yeah, she's like, no, treat me like a normal person. So it just in one little action, we get quite an interesting insight into Nora there. And honestly, Nora's just such a great character. There's so much good stuff coming for her. I can't wait to get into it. Yeah. So then Nora leaves and she gives Matt a hug, which is the first time you see anyone kind of showing any kind of affection towards Matt. And Jill and Amy are following her. And then the boring fucking twins show up. And Jill and Amy take their car to follow Nora. Yeah. These guys are just... Basic. Okay, they don't do anything particularly, like, you know, offensive or like anything. They're just so boring. So then we cut back to Meg, and she's trying to cut down this tree. And like I said earlier, she kind of speculates on the meaning of the exercise. Is it meant to make me, you know, symbolise me chopping down my old life? And she refers to the guilty remnant as a cult, in which Laurie, well, I've put on the doc that Laurie says that it's not a cult, but no, she writes down that it's not a cult.
I've never been to a coit before.
So Laurie thinks that Meg isn't ready to join, and Meg wants to give up chopping down the tree, and Laurie just lets her. I think that's all part of the test. Phil, do you have any kind of thoughts on this one?
The only thing I was really thinking of was, I noted that she asked for it. Didn't she ask for a smoke and she wasn't given one? Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very odd, considering that's one of the most notable things about the guilty remnant, other than the fact they don't speak, is the incessant smoking. Yeah. So I thought it was quite strange that they didn't seem keen to have one of their inductees smoke.
I think that might be almost like...
She hasn't passed the probation yet. She can't do it.
Yeah, no, exactly, and it's almost like, because she's not a full member, they don't want her to be doing the proper guilty remnant things, because if she then, you know, goes rogue or something, then she's going to give them an even worse name, or something. She's going to go off brand.
Marlboro. But true, but then the other thing I was thinking about is that she's not the others don't, as all their mantras say, they don't smoke for pleasure. But in this instance, that's what Meg was looking for. She wasn't looking... I don't think she was doing it to try and fit in. I think she just wanted a bit of stress relief, almost.
Well, it's clear that she doesn't understand the guilty remnant yet, and that's what Laurie's concerned about, definitely.
Always good to join something you don't understand.
yeah, always a great idea. Did you have any thoughts about this little scene, Ant?
Just on the end, really, when she gave up and then she made a conscious effort to take the axe away. Because I kind of thought maybe that Laurie might do something to her with it. And that's it really. Yeah,
if you're in a situation with some people who are acting slightly strange and not speaking and you're not sure about, if there's an axe, make sure you're holding the axe.
Be the one with the axe.
There was no river nearby. She couldn't have washed them all away or anything, could she?
No.
Right, so then we're back with Tom, who's on the run with Christine, and Tom finds a dead body in what I presume is a kind of like meeting point at a gas station. It's not Holy Wayne though, and Holy Wayne isn't there, and he should be there by now. And so Tom, in this moment, actually phones Kevin after ignoring all his phone calls in the first episode. But then, as he's phoning him, Holy Wayne arrives. Maybe there's a bit of kind of divine intervention there, keeping them apart. What do you reckon, Phil?
Yeah, it does seem kind of strange that they're not that those two don't, especially as you can already know from the earlier episode that Tom's quite keen on Christine, and she's already been highlighted as being special. Now, I'm not sure if, again, I'm jumping the gun on this one, but I was thinking of like a kind of like following a religious theme on this one. Is it going to be a bit like a Mary and Joseph setup? Is it going to turn out that she's pregnant or something daft like that, and Holy Wayne is going to be some kind of angel? I don't know, but I'm semi-expecting that she's now pregnant, hence why she's considered special. You don't have to confirm or deny at this point, just... That's how I'm looking at this now, and that's one problem. I've sent myself a bit down a rabbit hole by trying to see things from a biblical perspective, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if I'm now looking for the wrong things.
Yeah, well, you can absolutely see why you would try and view this program through that kind of lens, and who knows, maybe that might be the correct lens to see it through. So then Kevin wants to know if the police have found. I say the police, like he's not the police, but like so he wants to know if Dennis has found the dog killer's truck, but no, they can't find anything about it. Can't find any registered number plate for it, like nothing at all. Like this truck doesn't exist. So then, it seems like they're trying to reinforce the idea that Kevin has maybe made him up, and it seems that even Dennis thinks so.
Yeah, I mean, this episode for me. The whole situation with the truck and his colleagues questioning it really reinforced, I guess for the first time, a strong feeling of Kevin is losing it, and he's clearly a bit delusional or forgetful or prone to hallucinations or something like that. And it was kind of hinted at in the previous episode, but the whole situation with the truck really got me thinking, okay, well, I need to be on the lookout because he's almost a bit of an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Kevin then goes to one of the guilty remnant houses. He's got a warrant to search the house for a missing person. He says to Patty, come on, you know the drill. So this is obviously a consistent affair. He's not actually there looking for Meg, but he's looking for Mr. Jensen, who is the other guy who's in the holding house with Meg. Kevin does actually speak to her, but she says she doesn't need Kevin's help. She's there of her own free will. Dennis takes her picture. Okay, fine. She clearly was just like, "What the fuck? What are you doing?" And Kevin gives her his card, and she does take it. She doesn't immediately throw it away, as you might have expected.
Yeah, the one thing I did think was weird in this one was Jeremy's like, "Oh yeah, it's a good one." You know, he's like talking about the picture. I found it weird that the other police officer commented, "Oh yeah, it's a good picture. It's a good shot of her." I was a bit like, That's a bit creepy, isn't it? Just, God, she looks gorgeous in this shot. Can I make a copy for me? No, you know what I mean? It's just it just seemed a bit weird. And it wasn't one they used later on either. Yeah,
it's almost like there are a few... obviously, what we was talking about earlier with the police raid is the police kind of, well, not kind of, but definitely abusing their power. And maybe even in just like subtle things like that, just making like kind of weird comments like that is... maybe just hints as to, maybe the writer's thoughts on the police and how they go about things. Maybe looking into that too much, but you never know. So Patty's worried that Meg's gonna leave. I mean, she tells Laurie that she's too easy, I know, but Laurie says that she's not strong enough yet. So Patty says, "Fine, just cut her loose."
Yeah, they should probably learn sign language, right? Because it's going to waste so much paper, so much effort writing it all down. It's not quick. Learn sign language. They don't have to talk. Jobs are good.
Yeah. Not very environmentally friendly either, is it?
What if you're dyslexic?
Without taking the piss. Struggle?
They're not an inclusive employer, are they?
No, they're not at all.
Need to make reasonable adjustments for the interview process as well.
You got any thoughts on this, Phil?
The only thing I noticed was because Laurie's typing out an email, isn't she? So I was kind of pausing it, trying to read what the email was saying, because she's sending it to others. So I saw it said, "Dear Sylvia, we know how you're feeling. You want to understand why you're feeling that way, but you can't. We can help. We can help you let go. The Good Riddance Party." Or the Good Riddance.
I think that email there was a really good summary kind of what we was talking about last week, in that, everybody just wants to understand, but they can't, and they can't move on, they can't get over it. And so the Guilty Remnants answer is, yeah, you won't get over it. We're just gonna help you just forget everything and just completely let go. So we're back with Amy and Jill now. They've followed Nora all the way to her job, and she conducts interviews for something called Departure Benefit, which we'll get back to in a bit. So then at the police station, Kevin's building some sort of case on the Guilty Remnant, and the mayor is clearly unimpressed when she comes in and sees what they've been doing. She's not happy that he went over to the Guilty Remnant house after assaulting one of the members in the last week. And then Kevin repeats the line of that the dog killer said in the last episode, that they're not our dogs, they're not anymore. Which, again, Kevin's kind of like now taking on almost like the mannerisms of what this person has said, or what he thinks this person has said, and again just adds to that feeling that something is not right with Kevin. But anyway, he's toasting a nice bagel, it seems. The mayor says that she's visiting somebody tonight, and Kevin says, yep, tell him I said hi. And then the mayor leaves, and then the bagel disappears in the toaster. I think the key point there being that the mayor leaves and Kevin's just all on his own. What do you think, Ant?
So, I thought it was a really good point how you mentioned Kevin started emulating the phrases and mannerisms of the dog killer, saying the dogs they're not our dogs, not anymore. So that was a really good link to see, like, is it the same person? Is he what's going on there? So it was a really good point. But I suppose my main point on this is, and this is a bit of a stretch, talking about rabbit holes, Phil. Like, come and join me because we're going diving in.
Come join me down here, yeah.
So I thought he put 2 bagels into the toaster, which symbolises the 2% of people gone.
to be fair, that's not a bad kind of.
But wasn't it just 2 halves of the whole?
Yeah, 2 halves of the whole.
It still represents the 2%, and then that symbolises, that shows how Kevin is no longer whole, and how people are broken.
He's just making this up on the fly, I can promise you that.
and they disappear with the toaster, and you can't get answers.
Now,
can't move on. I want the bagel. Can't move on.
Dear listeners, if you were wondering at all if what you're going to get from this podcast, this is the kind of analysis that you get here. The bagels symbolise the departure. You know it, we know it, and Ant's going to tell you.
Open to interpretation. Art is subjective.
That's it.
I'll be honest. It's not something I'd thought of before. But
one day Ant's going to say something like that, and we're just going to go, you know what? You're fucking right.
Yeah, you are spot on.
Go on then, Phil. What are your thoughts, Phil? Come on.
What are my thoughts? I purely saw this just as another way to keep the audience on tilt as to his mental health. Yeah, I just thought it was him keeping us on tilt. Did he actually put the bagels in? Because the mayor doesn't have any bagels. She doesn't want one when he offers her one.
She's not hungry.
Well, yeah, possibly, but maybe there were no bagels, Maybe.
I just think it's great. I think it's
maybe
great
they went as part of The Departed.
I just think it's great with the leftovers. How obviously you've got this massive mystery about the departure, but then they also throw in these like really small and seemingly like just benign things, but they are just really strange happenings of like the bagel has disappeared out of the toaster. Just to get you asking, like, what the fuck is going on all the time. So then we go back to Nora now, and we see her basically at work, and she's filming clients, I suppose you could call them. So they've got verbal proof. So in trying to get the departure benefit, she's gonna ask 150 pretty random questions, like, Did the departed travel to Brazil or speak more than one language? And then I suppose if they're satisfied with the answers, or maybe just after they've answered all the questions, then they'll presumably get their check, I suppose. What do you reckon, Ant?
So yeah, Nora seems a bit of a hard ass, don't she? Because in the previous episode, they say she lost a whole family, and you think she would really empathise with these people seeking departure benefit. But yes, I don't know if all the questions are mandated, or if she's making them up on the spot, or if it's just a load of bollocks. I don't know. But yeah, she definitely could have been more compassionate. I think I even saw like a couple of smirks, and she was a bit cold, and yeah, it was just a bit. It wasn't what I was expecting from her. I was expecting her to be very like warm and friendly. Phil?
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree. I'd wondered if she was getting some kind of pleasure out of it almost. You know, because the parents are clearly very upset. And you're right, I thought she'd go in being very empathetic. You know, oh, well, I lost my daughters as well. You know, talk about it. But she doesn't. She kind of comes in and asks these quite awkward questions. You know, did your son ever have more than 20 sexual partners? And as they already said, like, oh, we've already sent in all this information. So I'd actually wondered if her being there was necessary, or if it was just her in some way trying to either share in someone else's pain at losing family members. So it seemed really out of place to me.
Well, I think they do say that, you know, she's filming them so they've got verbal proof. So I think the reason why she's there does hold up in terms of like for her job. But then my question would kind of be, or not even a question, but my observation would be that I find it surprising that she'd want to do that job. You know, if the departure has basically affected her life in such a massive way that she'd want to work in a job, that means she has to keep talking about it. And yeah, seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah, unless it's, as you kind of said, unless felt like she was helping them in more ways, you know, kind of talking about her own experiences or trying to help them. But she doesn't. She just comes in, asks the awkward questions. So you're right. I'm surprised she'd do that job. Yeah, and is the benefit just money? Do we ever find out if it's just cash or if it's?
Yeah, I think it's just money, to be honest.
Cash money.
Cash money. Cash money right now.
A grip.
So then Amy, Jill, and the fucking twins are sitting outside in the car, and then
Don't
Amy.
hate on the twins.
Mate, they deserve it, man. They're such nothing characters. But Amy then goes and breaks into Nora's car, which was just unlocked for some reason. Maybe again she's inviting some sort of danger in or something. Yeah, or danger or something. I'm not quite sure. But she goes in for the hand cream and she sees all the kind of kids CDs in the front, and then finds like a packet of sweets. We'll back to the packet of sweets in a little bit, I reckon. We're back with Kevin again, and he's still clearly feeling the effect of Laurie going to the guilty remnant. He's not over it at all. And then Meg's fiance, who we saw in the first episode when there was on a date night, that kind of thing, comes in, and he talks about Kevin talks about how the guilty remnant usually target people specifically that have had something happen to them, or, you know, are in a kind of bad place. So again, as we said last week, the fact that the guilty remnant seem to be following Kevin is quite interesting. Kevin says that the guilty remnant, quote, want to remind people of what happened. And Kevin thinks that Meg can actually be convinced to come home, but the fiancé says, well, why would I do that? Why would I do that? And he says that, you know, Kevin says that maybe she needs a bit of help, and the fiancé is just like, it's always been about her needs. I've put the wedding back because of what she needs and all this kind of thing. So all this is just to show that they've clearly had some previous issues. What are you saying about all that, Ant?
I could kind of see his point of view. At the start, I thought, why has he been so cold and kind of heartless? But, you know, she's obviously ran out on him, and they've had problems in the past, so he's probably just at his wit's end a little bit. He seems a bit of a hothead anyway, doesn't he? Like, seems like probably not the most rational man. But also, like, they mention in the episode that he declares her missing, which is the right thing to do, but doesn't think to turn up at the good riddance house and have a look if she's there. You know, we've got this notorious court in the city, who are clearly stalking her, why not just rock up one day?
Not a cult. Not a cult, says Laurie.
Yeah. Well,
Rights.
From the horse's mouth. Just rock up. Is Megan there? Or try and get a glimpse or something. Or I don't know.
To be honest, when I saw that you put that point in the doc, it did make me laugh, and I was also like, you know what, that is true. That he knows that the Guilty Remnant have been following her. He knows that she's got issues, and these are the kind of people that usually join the Guilty Remnant. She goes missing, and he doesn't think she's probably with the Guilty Remnant. Idiot, yeah.
Just speaking of the doc, I like it how you against the key for GR instead of Guilty Remnant, you put good riddance. Yeah.
Just keeping it on brand. So Kevin then gets a call from Dennis, who's actually found the dog killer's truck, and it's in Kevin's driveway, which fucking what? The keys are on the dashboard, and no paperwork can be found about the car at all. But it's got another dead dog in the trunk. Which, what the fuck is going on with this program? Dennis says that he'll tell people that he just found it 2 blocks away, but Kevin is just like, well, why the fuck would you do that? It's clearly somebody's put it here. It's not my truck. And, is that right, Kevin? Are you sure about that, Kevin? He seems sure in the way that he's saying it, but everything else kind of points to the contrary, I would say.
It's a bit of a stretch, but quite a lot of these cars have sort of tracking systems on there, don't they? And the police could probably track where the car's been. I don't know if it was a car new enough to do that, but maybe the police could have looked into that. But it's a bit of a stretch.
Possibly, I'd wondered if the owner of the cars may have gone during the departing, and that's why there's a free truck knocking around that he could access and use without anyone being able to trace it or do anything. No one's reported it stolen, for example. So yeah, that's why that's. Yeah, so that's what I thought.
Are you saying that Jason Aldean left in the departure?
Well, look, if Beyonce can make it, if my man the Pope can make it, I don't see why not.
And he's left. He was just coming off the dirt road.
Laid back, swerving like he was George Jones. Yep.
Do you think he departed before or after he took a sip of these ice cold?
You would have thought they'd let him a chance to have another one. Just James Oldie, departing out the window.
Who's
Jason?
Sorry, Jason.
No, James Oldie.
For anyone who doesn't know, which I presume is going to be quite a lot of people listening to this, is Jason Aldean is a country singer who I must admit his music is fucking good,
and a bit of a life mentor as well.
But honestly,
moving on.
Yeah, move on. On a serious note, though, talking about the car, Dennis does say that there's no kind of registered paperwork about it, and if the person departed, that wouldn't explain that. It's almost, there would still be that record there.
James Aldean.
Brilliant.
I had to put myself on mute there.
I've been caught slipping.
Right, so Tom's back at the gas station and he finds Holy Wayne kissing the dead body that we found earlier. Just, Holy Wayne, you fucking weirdo, man. So Holy Wayne is right when he says that the police didn't come to arrest him and that they was opening fire before they got to the house. Are the police and the government, are they worried about Holy Wayne or something? There must be a reason for that, but we'll see. So Holy Wayne then says he's going to take Tom's, quote, poison, unquote, from him after his kill. And Tom kind of goes in for the hug, which is Holy Wayne's way of doing it, but his face doesn't look particularly convinced. So does he actually believe in his powers? I'm not sure at all. And Holy Wayne says that he can't figure him out and that Tom's just all suffering and no salvation. It's like a proper moody teenager. What do you reckon, Phil?
Yeah, I reckon he's... I thought it was weird, how do you join this cult without kind of either witnessing or in some way being part of Jason's powers? So I thought it was... Because someone just told you, oh yeah, I can heal you with a hug. But they're like, what on earth are you talking about?
Do you mean Holy Wayne's powers?
Yeah, sorry, Holy Wayne's powers, sorry.
Jason's powers?
Did I say Jason?
Did he actually No, I missed that.
Listen back to it when we do it.
I'll make a note of the time.
Unless you
make a note of the time, but I'm not editing that up.
Unless you witness
Jason's powers.
Sorry, I meant James. Anyway,
go on, Phil.
Right. So I'd find it strange that he would be part of a cult if he didn't believe in the powers of Holy Wayne. God, that was hard for me to make sure I got the right name there.
It's a tightrope now, isn't
It
it?
is.
For everyone.
I've got myself on tilt. But so I found it strange when Holy Wayne offered him the hug and he didn't seem that keen on it, did he? Because that's because Wayne doesn't come in to hug you. He kind of opens his arms out for you to come to him. And you're right, Tom didn't look like he was enjoying it or even believed what was about to happen. As in, that would help him anyway.
No.
So yeah,
what do you reckon about it all, Lance?
I don't think you'd want to check Holy Wayne's internet search history. I think you're going to find some very weird things on there and certain preferences on certain websites and certain categories, including maybe dead people and yeah, I don't know. And also, what are hate abuse credentials? Like what? I mean, I suppose
the congressman looked pretty delighted last week's episode.
Exactly, and I presume we're 2 episodes in, right? But I presume Phil and I will see the explanation of why people trust him and they're invested in him, and he gets away with doing all these weird things and what it all means. But it's certainly interesting.
He worked as a security guard at a mall or something, didn't he? Isn't that what the opening?
Yeah.
Police officers or agents say he worked a few years in as a security guard. So it's not like he's got any kind of qualification that would make you believe him to be a cult leader. It's not like he's a psychology expert or a doctor or any kind of pharmaceuticals.
No, his life has taken a pretty sharp turn, definitely. If maybe don't trust this program to give you too many explanations. But,
I'm kind of going with that,
Yeah, I'm sure you can see what I mean just from these first 2 episodes. We're briefly back with Jill and Amy. Amy's eating the jelly beans that she got from Nora's car, and Jill comments on how they're stale, and Jill says that, they're probably for Nora's kids. And Amy's face just kind of...
That's what she wants you to think.
Well, I think Amy's face just kind of says it all, and you're just like, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. So back with the guilty remnant, and Meg doesn't want to give Laurie any of her stuff tonight. I think Laurie's saying, I think it's implied that Laurie's taking one of her items each night, but Laurie tells Meg to surrender. Meg then asks her if she remembers what it's like to care about anything. She's having a bit of a go at her, and then so Laurie tells Meg that Kevin, who came to see her earlier, is actually her husband, and Meg comments about the hot cop, and Laurie says,
in those joggers.
Yeah, she's seen him jogging, hasn't she?
Yeah. Have you seen him jogging? You walked out on that. But Laurie says that I remember. And she's showing Meg that you have to just give up everything, even your hot cop husband and, your seemingly perfect life or whatever, because life just isn't the same anymore. And Meg basically just breaks down then and says that she doesn't want to feel this way anymore.
So Laura's a bit of a hypocrite because she's had her hair done in between episodes 1 and 2. It's shorter and more stylish now.
I did not notice that.
HBO wants to make sure she's looking fresh for after the pilot.
Yeah. So give up your hot cop, give up everything. Oh, down the salon. Nice expensive haircut, yeah.
So Holy Wayne then gives Tom a nice wad of cash and then just completely a grip, and then snaps Tom's phone, which I was like, he snapped that. He must be strong. He snapped that with absolute ease. And so Tom's back in the car with Christine, and he basically just snaps when the car won't start. He's just clearly in over his head. He wasn't expecting this. And so, as I said earlier, that Tom's like a bit of a moody teenager. He probably just joined Holy Wayne's cult because he just ran off as a moody teen, or because, the things that he saw at uni after the departure. But now, before he knows it, he's a killer on the run, being given all this responsibility by Holy Wayne, who is potentially dangerous. So I think he's probably like well in over his head here. Kevin then gets a knock on the door at home, and it's the dog killer. All right, fair enough. Wasn't expecting him to show up at this point. Well, I was, but I'm sure you guys were.
On the rewatch.
Yeah. So the dog killer says that he heard that Kevin was looking for his truck. How has he heard that? Has he maybe heard it in Kevin's head? If he is just a figment of his imagination, maybe. So Jill then talks to the dog killer, and takes the kind of 6-pack of beers, which I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on that, because she could feasibly have just been talking to Kevin and took them from him, because there's not a back and forth interaction. She just says, "What? These are for us," and you wouldn't think that she would just ignore a stranger or just talk to a stranger like that. But you could imagine her talking to Kevin like that and just saying, "Yep, these for us," and then just walking off. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, I'm kind of undecided, because following on from the fiasco with the truck earlier, I definitely thought, Kevin's the unreliable narrator. So the DK, the dog killer, he's not he's not real. But then to see the daughter take the Budweiser or Bud Light, whatever it was, from him, yeah, I'm undecided. Like, is that just Kevin going a bit mad? Is he really there? Did she just take it and just was a bit rude? I'm undecided. Phil, what's your thoughts?
I took it as that I thought it was going to be a bit of a red herring, kind of, but you see her take the 4-pack from him, but actually she doesn't really acknowledge him as a person. He doesn't say anything. And you're right, I can't imagine Jill would just walk up, take a 4-pack from a complete stranger, then walk into the house with it. So I thought he was some kind of either mental projection of Kevin or something along those lines. I'm still not convinced he's real, or he's not a human. Is currently where I'm going with it.
But all that said, dog killer's talking to Kevin, and he tells him that he's found another pack of dogs. Kevin says, "Well, why don't you just kill them yourself?" And he says that, "Well, because I'm lonely," which I thought was just a pretty funny line, to be honest. And Kevin says, "Go on, take your truck." And dog killer says, "No, it's all yours," which, again, is just making you think, what the fuck is going on? But then Jill then asks Kevin, after dog killer's left, asks Kevin, "Who was that?" So she clearly has seen someone. There was somebody there, so it seems like he is a real guy. But as Ant said earlier, Kevin's definitely an unreliable narrator, so take from that what you will, I suppose.
Mm.
Kevin then goes to a psychiatric unit to visit his dad, who's been visited by the mayor at the same time, and they're clearly in a relationship. And there is obviously a history of mental illness in the family, given that Garvey Sr. is in this unit at the moment. Kevin briefly asks the mayor if she stole his bagel. It's on the mind. It's on his mind. He's not getting over that. And Garvey Sr. reveals that he used to be the chief of police, and that Kevin is now living in his house. He's completely following in his dad's footsteps. Makes you wonder if he's going to follow his footsteps all the way into a psychiatric unit, just like that. Kevin briefly mentions about the fact that he's been crying in his car, which we haven't seen at all, and it's only brief, but it does make you just think that Kevin is not okay at all. Garvey Sr. then says that because Tom doesn't check in as often as he should, doesn't mean that he doesn't love you, and I think that's clearly him using Tom and Kevin's relationship as an allegory for their own.
Yeah.
Because I think the mayor says, or it's mentioned, somebody mentions about Kevin that doesn't go to see Garvey Sr. that much, and so I think Garvey Sr. is just telling Kevin that, yeah, I know that you do love me, but because they're real men, you can't just talk directly to each other. Got to use it through the veil of a couple of other people.
Sports analogies. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about all this, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think it's just a an allegory of their relationship. What I think is quite telling is how he kind of asked the mayor, did you steal my bagel? So it's showing that he's still very obsessed and almost acutely aware of his own potentially deteriorating mental state. Because most people I wouldn't recall that. I wouldn't hold a grudge if, let's say, she had taken the bagel. I wouldn't have thought about it. It's a free bagel. So I think it shows how obsessed. So it shows how he's obsessing over things now, and almost trying to ensure that his own reality is the right one. So I was trying to recall when you see, in the previous episode, I think they talk about, because the mayor's told the dad what's been going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was wondering was, in the earlier episode, in episode 1, do you see, when you see that what I assume is the dad running through the back garden, is he barking like a dog?
I am not totally sure, actually. I'd have to go back and look at
it.
I know there's definitely barking going on. I'm not sure if he's barking.
Yeah.
But, that definitely sounds like something to look out for. I'll keep an eye out with all Garvey Senior scenes, see if he starts barking. I'm sure it'll be fairly obvious, and I won't have to keep too close an eye out on for it.
Barking mad.
Kevin then asks his dad about how, quote, it started for him, and Garvey Senior is insistent that he isn't crazy at all, but he thinks that Kevin's losing his shit. And Garvey Senior then starts actually physically talking to the voices in his head, but he says to Kevin that, quote, they said they're sending somebody to help you, and he seemingly knows that the dog killer went to go visit Kevin. So clearly there's something strange going on here that is really difficult to put your finger on. And Kevin's dad then urges him to keep whatever is going on to himself, because, that's that's obviously the best advice for people with mental health issues. Just keep it to yourself. Don't talk to anyone about it. Everything will be just fine. And just a little note that the amazing music of The Leftovers comes in quite hard on this point, and just gives me goosebumps every time.
Just something that's just popped into my head. Maybe DK is one of the 2% that disappeared, and it's some sort of, I don't know, it's got some sort of link in with Kevin, and same for the people that Garvey Senior is talking to. Again, it's a stretch, but potential.
I hadn't thought about that.
Maybe.
I thought there's something, because going back when Jill says, oh, who was that at the door? And that's why I said I'm certain he's not human. Because I hadn't really thought of him as being a departed. I thought it might be something else. But maybe you're right. Maybe he is a departed who's come back, or is visiting or something. Interesting point. I hadn't thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I had thought about was that the mayor maybe had said something to the father, and that's why the father knows he's been talking to DK, because the mayor would know what's going. Well, should have an idea of what Kevin said to the people regarding the shooter, and that maybe the dad's just playing on that.
Well, I think maybe she would say that Kevin's been acting strange and that there's something going on with him, but I'm not sure, because she doesn't know that DK has gone to Kevin's house. So I'm not sure she could tell Garvey Senior that, and the fact that he says that they've sent somebody to help you straight after he's just come to his door seems to be referring to that. So I can see what you're getting at. I'm not totally convinced by it though, but it's definitely a good idea.
Okay.
Kevin then goes back to work, and he goes to take apart the fucking toaster. He's obsessed with this bagel, but he wants to know that he isn't crazy. And then, surprisingly, I would say, he does actually find it. He can rest easy tonight then, and he's sits back and he's just got a big smile on his face. And were you surprised when he actually found the bagel?
No, because I think it would have been a bit of a stretch for the bagel to disappear. I think you've already had the initial phenomenon of the 2% disappearing. I think for the bagel to disappear, it would either show that stuff is disappearing on a more frequent basis, / Kevin is going mad, and it's even more imagery for that. Linking in with my point earlier about how important the 2% is, and the fact that he finds that maybe that Kevin will unlock the mystery. You got anything on this one, Phil?
The only thing I think you've pretty summed it up quite well. I just thought he was just becoming very obsessed, and again, I thought it was a way to kind of tell the audience that Kevin hasn't completely lost his mind yet. He's not completely gone. There was a bagel. It was there, and he's not right to obsess over it, but kind of there is something. It's not that he's gone mad.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? Because this is only episode 2, and so they don't want to go. Obviously, they've been doing a lot of work over these first 2 episodes to kind of imply that, something's going on with Kevin. But as I said, it is only episode 2. They don't want to go the full hog yet, if that is the way that they're going. So they're going to pull it back and be like, no, everything is all right with Kevin. So Patty then wakes up to tell Laurie that Meg is seemingly gone. But it actually transpires that she's just gone out and she's going to fucking chop that tree down. And she's getting through it. She's all in now. And I think this then has the payoff for the earlier kind of points that we were saying about when Meg's saying, oh, is it meant to resemble her old life? And then combine that with the conversation in that, Laurie walked out on Kevin and her old life, that is the actual message, and that it's a simple message, but it is pretty powerful once you kind of get behind it. And like I say, she's cutting down the tree and she's actually getting through it now. She's making progress. Then I thought it was quite interesting because she goes from kind of like joyous as she's doing it, and then she has a seeming kind of expression of pain on her face, showing, because the people that are in the guilty remnant aren't enjoying it. They don't do it for a laugh. They're all clearly in pain and kind of want to own that fact. And so I think the fact that Meg has now, the facial expression change shows that she's going to be a proper member of this now. And just a final side note, the fucking music's just brilliant on this program. Comes in again as she's doing that. It's great. So that is the end of the synopsis for episode 2 of season 1 of The Leftovers. So, Phil, can I get your overall thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, again, I'm still loving this program, still loving the series. I like how it's now it's not about trying to explain The Departed. They're not really trying to solve or explain where the 2% have gone. It's now purely about the characters and, seeing who they really are and their stories now in dealing with it. And I like that transition. I like the fact that's quite clear now. They're not going to go back and try and explain The Departed yet.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you reckon, Ant?
Yeah, I would echo what Phil says. I'm really enjoying it. They develop all the characters. There's obviously lots going on with Kevin and his mental state and what's going on with DK as well. I would have liked a bit more explanation of what's really going on with Meg, maybe a bit of a history. Does she really know what the GR are? Does she know what they stand for? Does she know what she's getting herself into, or is it just a bit of a release? I'm not sure. Not overly. I'm not overly bothered about the kind of Holy Wayne stuff. I know it's interesting, but it's probably the least interesting aspect for me right now. But I think that will develop. I think there's a lot to get on board with, perhaps. And it's been quite fast so far.
I do agree. I think that the Holy Wayne stuff for me isn't the most interesting part of this program. He's kind of like the mystical version of the twins a little bit. That I'm like, oh, okay, we're back with Holy Wayne, fine, but there is at least something to talk about with him. I think for me, on overall, like with this second episode, it's not trying to do as much heavy lifting as the first episode is, because obviously that's the pilot and they're trying to show the proof of concept to the network and all that. So they really did a really good job of setting up the world in that first pilot episode. And then, exactly as Phil said, this episode now is going to start taking you deeper into these characters, which is what the program really is all about. And as I said, whilst I don't really care about the Tom subplot, really, the rest is great. And I think, particularly towards the end, the stuff with Meg and Garvey Sr. and Laurie is all really, really strong work then, and ends the episode on a really good high. So it gives just a few tiny answers, like as to a few small things, but it still poses lots of questions and still leaves lots and lots of mystery for going forward.
Yeah, I'm still keen to find out what's happening next.
It's a good job we got loads of episodes coming up on it, Bill.
Yeah, another 26 episodes to get into it. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us. This was season 1, episode 2 of The Leftovers. Penguin 1, Us 0. Little side note, what did you guys actually think of the title of the episode? Why is it Penguin 1, Us 0?
I thought it was. So I was thinking about this when I saw you in the side note, because the only penguin you see is the one the one in the psychologist's office, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's for children to beat up, basically, to help them through their emotions. And I'd wondered if it was kind of, that thing gets knocked around all day, gets beaten up, but gets back up and is still smiling. I'm not sure if I'm overthinking that, but that's how I saw it. Was the penguin's ahead, because it's still I know it has to. It's an inanimate object, but it gets up and it's still smiling. Unlike
humanity, that just can't come back from the big punch that they've had with the departure. No, I think that's a really good observation, actually. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you all next week, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a fucking brilliant episode next week. Thanks a lot.
The show or the podcast?
Both.
High expectations.
One for definite, and we'll see how we get on. Thanks again for joining everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
See you later.
Bye.